the builder of the house has greater honor than the house itself. For every house is built by someone, but God is the builder of everything. Moses was faithful as a servant in all God's house, bearing witness to what could be spoken by God in the future. But Christ is faithful as the Son of God, Son of over God's house. And we are his house, if indeed we hold firmly in our confidence and hope in which we glory. Okay. Verse 1. Verse 1 reads, well, the first half of verse 1. Therefore, holy brothers and sisters, who share in the heavenly calling. Well, we see in the Bible, we see a lot of times the authors use brothers and sisters, right? And then it's basically calling you together, bringing you together. How the author is relating to you. We also can see it in Matthew 40:50. It says, but he replied to the man who told him, who is my mother and who are my brothers? And stretched out his hands toward his disciples. He said, here are my brothers, here are my mothers, and here are my mother and my brothers. For whoever does the will of my Father in heaven is my brother and sister and mother. So, it basically just brings the reader and audience closer to the Hebrews. And the second part, it says, fix your thoughts on Jesus, whom we acknowledge as our apostle and high priest. Now, apostle means the one who is sent under authority. That's what it literally means. And now, what I got from this was, Jesus is the one who's the apostle, which is the one who sends under authority, and for him to be sent under authority. In John 17, it says, 3:17, it says, he first sent from heaven to condemn the world. He was sent down to condemn the world and to save the world by sacrificing the world.
No, he was sent not to condemn the world.
Oh, that's my bad.
Okay.
That's condemn the world.
If you condemn the world, then you'll be in trouble.
Okay. And then, and the second part, it says being a high priest, right? These two parts basically separate it's two characteristics of Jesus. One of them being apostle, which is in this case Son of God, the high priest under authority, who has supreme authority, right? And the high priest part is it's the human form and then human form, which is the teacher. Yeah. Right?
Can you define the word apostle again?
Means the one who's sent under authority.
And what is high priest?
Huh?
What is high priest?
A priest in this case is the one who's the highest, the leader of the human.
Yes, human leader. Connected to God.
See, the apostle is the godly leader, and the high priest is the human leader.
I get that.
Both in one,
Mm-hmm.
And then verse 2, it says, he was faithful to the one who appointed him, just as Moses was faithful to in all God's house. So now, just in some research, one of the research I did was telling me how verse 2 and verse 3 is supposed to be one verse, but then during the translation to NIV, they broke into two. And I could see how it relates. That verse 2, it shows, it relates, it compares Jesus and Moses. And then verse 3, it says Jesus has been found worthy of greater honor than Moses. And then at verse 3, it contrasts. Like it's saying how Jesus is greater. Okay. So Moses in the Jewish world back then, well, it still is, that there was no greater leader than Moses. Moses was considered the supreme leader, the high priest. And then you see the comparison in verse 2. It says by saying, then in verse 2 is the comparison. In verse 3, it says that Jesus has been found worthy of greater honor, which means like wait.
Confusing yourself?
Yes. And also the part says in verse 2, it says, in all God's house. God's house has appeared many times in the Bible, and the meaning behind it is the people. So we are God's house, basically. And then, so you can see that it says Moses was faithful in all God's house. But then Jesus was found more worthy and greater honor than Moses as the builder of the house. So these two basically just explains how Jesus is more superior than Moses. I guess at this point, this verse was created to explain, since Moses is considered as the supreme leader for the Jews, he was trying to tell the Jews that this guy is better, this guy's greater. Right, you should listen to this guy too. And then continuing on verse 3, it says, just as the builder of the house has greater honor than the house itself. So I guess we can see that Moses is the house, the leader of the house of the Jews back then.
Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, good.
This.
He's the leader of the Jews back then. And then Jesus came, that basically just proves the Trinity more, like how he's also God, like the high priest and apostle. He's the high priest, which is basically, we can see like, just like Moses, but then he's a little higher because he's the apostle sent by God. Since he's also part God.
Wait, what? What was that part?
Like Jesus is the high priest, the apostle, and God. Like the Trinity, and therefore it's like higher.
Oh, okay. I heard someone was part God, and I'm like, wait, hold on. That don't sound too right.
And then verse 6. But Christ is faithful as the Son over God's house, and we are his house. If indeed we hold firmly to our confidence and the hope in which we glory. And basically this proves the house part. Verse 6 explains clearly that we are the house of God. In those verses, house is referred like to the people. And I think the application to this is like, it's not that the Old Testament isn't valid anymore after Jesus come, but then we should view Jesus' word. So basically, a lot of times we take what we have, we take what is there, and we miss the best. So then at that time, the Jews took Moses, and they missed the best, which is Jesus. You know, so I think this is like trying to teach us that, you know, Jesus is there. Just follow his word. Yeah, that's it.
I think you should replace Jesus with the word.
Huh?
I think Jesus is the you should say God,
Hmm?
not Jesus, right?
So I don't think. So of course, everything in the Old Testament led up to Jesus, right? All the prophecies,